Except I'm not buffooning my way through this. Well, that's what's going to happen anyway, but at least we'll have some kind of preparation for this.
These podcasts always go off the rails anyways. It's fine.
What even are the rails?
The rails are for chumps, so we go off the rails.
Rules are for losers.
33 days, 22 castaways, 4 co-hosts at 1 podcast. This is Stranded in Tanzania, and I'm your host, Poody. Today we're joined by 4 co-hosts and alumni of Stranded, Hannah and Danni, both from Turks and Caicos, season 32.
That's fan favorite Danni to you.
15th place, Hannah, to you.
Yeah. Nate, who originally played in Stranded in Faroe Islands, season 25.
That's 3 misplayed idols to everyone.
Loveita, who originally played in Stranded for Victory, season 36.
I still think Bunny originally played in the Victory.
Yeah, well, perfect record. So today we're going to be looking back at the season as a whole, and we're going to be handing out some awards. We're going to go through the fan favorite results one at a time, but we're also going to go over the player of the season, which is an award awarded to you guys by your peers, people who you played the season with. And then we're going to hand out the Valentine Award at the end of the podcast. I would like you to know that for the first time, we have actual buffs to hand out for these awards. So after this is over, I'll get you information of where to send it, as well as there being a $25 prize for fan favorite.
Go buy yourself something nice.
Yeah, maybe some buffs. Buffs are on sale now. They're pretty good quality, if I do say so myself. We'll post a link to where to buy those. All proceeds go directly into prizes and buying more buffs for future seasons. Very, very non-profit. So pick those up if you would like. We're gonna now, I guess, we'll start going over the fan favorite results. Let me pull them up.
Buff's great.
Soap in my dog.
We'll also present Aaron with his winning $100 check. Don't spend it all in one place, Aaron. Is he here tonight?
He's going to be late, but
Okay. All right. Let's begin with 18th place. We had 2 ties, so that's why we're starting with 18th place. And of course, Elaine and Lyrsa, who did not show up, are not on the fan favorite list, so F's out for them.
Womp womp.
In 18th place, with 16.25% of the vote, is Angelina. I think.
My fan favorite. Disappointing.
You put her first?
Yes, because what? No, I didn't put her first. No, not my fan favorite. My drafts pick. I did not put her first. Don't get that twisted.
Thank God.
Anyways, but she was my draft pick, and she fucking disappointed me. She was doing so fine, and then she did not. Anyways.
Yeah, this is heavily skewed from a cheating perspective, but I think deservingly so, Cheaters don't get fan favorite money. Sorry. I will say I really enjoyed Angelina when she was there towards the merge. I think she was a slow burn, but she did become interesting. It's a shame. I think of the cheating scandal, she was the one who was most affected by it. She was the only one still in the game and she had an idol. The fairness of that could be debated, but I think we were just getting to the point of rooting for her, and for that to happen was a real shame.
Yeah, I wasn't super disappointed only because as a viewer, I think we had a very different perception of Angelina than the people in the game. I don't know what it was. They all loved her. I didn't see what the big hype was. But yeah, you're right. She was kind of becoming more interesting in that last week, but it is what it is.
We're gonna bring in Elizabeth and Chelsea. Not right now. I want them to come in just a minute, and we'll give them some time to think of their opinions on the cheating because they want their say, and I don't blame them. I would too if I was in their predicament. So let's go ahead and move on to 17th place. We have Karishma at 18.75% of the vote.
You skip Missy.
Those pro-lifers got the fan favorite poll.
Missy was higher than Karishma.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at the wrong one.
Yeah, maybe not the final. Karishma, I know why she's this low. I think she disappointed a lot of people. I also think Missy was probably she had a more of an impact on the season, obviously, so I get that. I will say, as disappointing as Karishma was, that fucking abortion comment was hilarious.
When Karishma was there, she was fun and entertaining, but problem was that she wasn't there enough for people to really like her, and I think people had really high expectations of her going in, considering she was already from Isolated, and then she just couldn't put in the time, and I think we're just in that.
Yeah, and she's been begging to be on a season for about a year at this point.
Yeah, that was our biggest shock, was how little she showed up, which was super disappointing. I mean, that closing line, I think, saved her from dead last, probably. But, you know.
I think you're ignoring the white powder in the room.
Yeah, we are.
We're also a pretty vindictive bunch, so, like, you beg to play. If you don't show up, people are going to be a little harder on you than if you had just been, like, somebody who showed up and was just kind of there, you know?
Yeah.
But we love you, Charlie.
Yeah, we do. I actually, you know, I think given that final trouble that he went home kind of redeemed him a little bit in my book, because at least that was fun.
Yeah.
So there's
I love
that.
Charlie. I will always.
All right, let's get on to the next cheater. In 16th place, we have Missy with 19.17% of the vote. I think deservingly in this spot, the chat saying hashtag fuck Missy, which was trending during the lurking. Yeah, there's just not... It sucks because I think had that not happened, Missy would be very high on this fan favorite list. But she fucked herself, man. I don't know what to say, you know. Whether it was, you know, as innocent as she says or not, I think it just doesn't matter. It's not a good look. We can't respect the game anymore. Like, it's totally... I can't praise her very much because of that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, I think had the cheating scandal not been revealed, I think Missy would probably be top 5. Like, regardless of your personal thoughts on her or her decisions, like, she was like the defining character of the pre-merge and, you know, made a huge impact. And that's normally what we look for and the things we remember about a season. It's just in this case, like, everything that happened after she got booted, it just totally killed any buzz she had with the lurkers.
Yep. Standard is all about supporting bad decision makers every time we have the opportunity to.
Tommy would also like to point out, though, that we should not praise her at all because she was playing a non-winning game because anybody can sign up and be a total asshole.
Yeah, but fan favorite's never about the person who's playing the winning game. Like,
It's about being an asshole.
wasn't Garrett the fan favorite and he went out like pre-merge? Like,
Yeah.
that, it just happens sometimes. Like, it's who we stand the hardest.
And we all stand Garrett.
Yeah, I think, you know, we were coming around on Missy. It's just a shame that she turned out to be a big cheater. So, you know, what you gonna do? All right, let's go ahead and move on. Now, I promised to bring in Chelsea and Elizabeth, and I think we're all waiting for that. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute them. Don't take up the whole podcast with this, but we do want to get your hot take on
Fuck
it.
Missy. Fuck Missy.
You guys were probably the most fucked over by the Missy Angelina situation.
100.
So what do you think of this low ranking in the fan favorite from the lurkers?
I don't know. I don't believe the whole story that they put together. It's just like all too much, like right from the get-go with all the idols found, all the clues, like just knowing things. And all of a sudden, like Gary said, Angelina's confessional just started looking like mine. Like, what the fuck? Like, I was like, why does hers look exactly like mine? It's just like, it was all too fishy to me. So I was like, no, I don't believe it.
No, and I said this, it was probably
I took it
really
personal.
late on Monday night, but the fact of the matter is I was Missy's number one, right? We all agree I was her number one. She was going to take me to the end, like whatever. And then all of a sudden, after knowing Angelina for one day, she jumped ship. Like that's just too fishy for me, in my opinion. So it makes me really happy that they're lower than I am on the fan favorite.
I think we had talked about about mid-season when that swap happened. That's kind of when the suspicions arose around them, and that's when we asked Reem to step down as a co-host, which probably should have never happened to begin with. But you know, live and learn. And so at that point, you know, we didn't have much evidence of anything, and we still don't really. But
like, I think Reem should have been stepped down the moment that like her lie that she didn't even know them personally came out. Like, it was like, okay, she obviously knows them personally because she was like exposing herself in the chats. Oh, I worked with him. It was like she lied in the beginning to get them on there. So it's just like all fishy right from the get-go.
Yeah, and it bugs me that the reason we found out was due to an accident, you know? Like, it's not like any of them came forward and said, like, this is what happened, you know? Like, if we hadn't seen that screenshot, we still wouldn't know that, you know?
Exactly.
Like, that's what bugs me the most. Also, who the fuck friend requests people they don't even know on Facebook? That doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
That's just
Yeah, I don't
society of mine.
know. Yeah, who does that? Like 10 mutual friends. If I did that, I'd have some creepy weirdos on my Facebook. Like, don't do that,
Yeah,
people.
exactly.
And don't do that in a game to try to get information because you're going to get caught, bitch.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened. So don't feel bad for them.
Not even a little
They
bit.
can rot in hell.
Like, honestly, at first it was like, okay, we could have played a rival season or something. At that point of the cheating part, I took it personally. It's like, okay, this is too much. I can't get past that now.
It's like there was a point before the cheating where I was like, all right, I got outplayed. Like Angelina's just a better social player than I am. But we don't know that now. Like it really genuinely could have. And I do believe that it was because of the cheating. And that really sucks because I wasted my first org experience on like being cheated on, essentially.
Right. No, I mean, I think that's valid. You guys had even mentioned, like, and I just want to bring this up briefly. We won't spend too long on this. You talked about in the reunion, you had said, among other things, that something about her knowing that you knew about her idol, Elizabeth. Like, I think you had said
what?
She knew that you had told each other about Missy's idol. I think, Chelsea, you had told Elizabeth about Missy's idol.
Yeah, I hadn't told anybody at that point.
I remember I
kept
said
it to myself. And then I kind of threw it out when I got voted out, but not thinking it would screw Chelsea. It was just, I wanted Tommy to know. I wanted even Dan to know, sort of thing. I wanted everybody to know that she did have an idol in case Chelsea didn't.
But also, the one thing that I said, I remember saying in the reunion podcast, I said that Missy seemed to know as soon as I told Liz, which she couldn't possibly have known that. But literally within hours of me telling Liz that Missy had the idol, Missy was coming to us and being like, I'm sketched out by you guys. I don't want to I think you guys are turning against me. And Liz and I did our best to be like, calm down, no. But I mean, it just seems like to fit together too well, if you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of fishy stuff going on with that.
Right.
Yeah, I think, like I said, this is 37th season and we're still learning a little bit. As the community grows, I think, that is something, unfortunately, we're going to have to be more careful of in the future. There was some trust built in that I think has been broken. We're not sure how much, but certainly a little bit. Certainly. So, unfortunately, I think you two ladies got the short end of the stick. So, it sucks that it had to be you that was the cause of our new rules we'll implement, but, it is what it is, I guess.
Just in my opinion, sucks for me, especially because Liz, we all know she's coming back. She's amazing, has a great personality, but I in the game didn't have a personality. That was my
But you did. Strategy, it's just more
I was
now
boring
too.
As all fuck to most people, and that was the point. But it's not going to get you back on another season,
I would say
anyway.
We love all personality types and people who are active. So, if you hang around enough, I'm pretty sure we'll get you.
This wasn't me fishing for compliments. I'm sorry.
And we especially love people who were unfairly robbed before their time. You were playing a fantastic game.
You did fine, and you'll get asked back as long as you're still active and don't disappear like Karishma did.
Yeah, you outplaced Hannah, and Hannah's come back. So
Yeah, exactly.
I was the 9th on the. I was, I think, not even on cover on my original season. I've come back how many times at this point?
Yeah. All right. Well, enough about Tim. No.
Love me.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and move on. Let's go on to 15th place. We have Vince with 23.75% of the vote. Vince was insane. No, I love Vince. I think he was a sweetheart. He was a little overexcited and probably socially awkward, which we loved. And I think he would have been a lot of fun had he made it further. Unfortunately, he was the first victim of Missy's fuckery with the stranded coin. For those that don't know, she took coins in exchange for a disadvantage in the challenge and then blamed it on Vince.
Didn't Aaron do the same thing?
I was going to say, she wasn't the only one to do that throughout the season, but Vince was the first victim of that. And it was pretty brazen the way she did it, because she was kind of the one to actively target Vince afterwards for, which was actually hilarious. Like, I have to give Missy props on the stuff that she did do. It's just hard because of the negative points of it.
Vince also was the unfortunate victim of being an easy victim because he missed the first night. Had a Bible study or something like that night. So he was not around until most people had gone to bed. I think that really killed his initial social game. And so when people were looking for a scapegoat, he was an one to pin it on.
Yeah, I really, really like Vince. He's kind of an awkward duck who, if he lasted longer, could have been a really fun character on the season. It just sucks that he just missed out early.
Yeah, and if Vince were here, he would have an hour-long story for you guys of why he deserved to still be in the game and why he was so robbed. But, we love a talkative king. But that's Vince. I think, he went so early, it's hard to talk about. Other than we thought he was fun while he was there. All right, now comes the hard part. In 14th place, this one's going to be somewhat controversial, is Jack with 39.17% of the vote. Jack is, I think, a sweetheart. I think he's very likable. Unfortunately, from a viewing perspective, he's not that interesting to watch. And I do want to say, yes, I was hard on Jack in the game. I'm hard on everyone who is, in my opinion, floating through. That being said, Jack had a pretty good shot at the final, going into Final Tribal Council. He ended up not getting close to the amount of votes to win the game, but certainly his strategy worked better than I gave him credit for.
I will say, for Jack being so low, I mean, I personally love his personality. Very there is a lot of personalities in this game, though, which made ranking fan favorite, I think, very difficult for a lot of people. And I don't know that people were impressed enough with gameplay to rank him very high.
I would agree there. I also think if there's one thing that the lurker server hates, it's a bad case of blue balls. And I feel like there was a long time where Jack was recognizing that he was a goat and everyone's saying, oh, like he's going to start doing something. I know I've said in podcasts before that I thought that he had played enough that he would know that, if you start to recognize that you're a goat, you need to do something to start to change that perception. And I just think everyone was waiting and waiting and waiting for this nice guy that we'd been watching the entire season to do something happen. And I think just left.
And as Kara's saying in the chat, she gave him every opportunity to snap back at her. I mean, I think part of her public attacks, this herself if she wants, were, also like trying to get something big going, get more attention. And Jack just kind of like Simpsoned back into the shadows of the bush. Didn't really.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, too, he stuck with me as a host. And I'm like a pit bull when someone is floating along in my perspective. And if they're willing to openly admit it at tribal council, like I will not let that shit go. It's going to come up at every tribal council. It may come across as even bullying because I'm that aggressive when I talk about it. I did feel bad about it because he was so I could tell he was being a little defensive in terms of like, he kind of leaned into the goat thing, I think out of an emotional reaction where, he felt a little bit attacked. I'm not here to make anyone feel bad about playing, especially not a sweetheart like Jack. I want people to play the game. And my job is to kind of dredge up any kind of drama or intrigue at that late stage of the game. And if someone is an obvious goat, I'm going to highlight that. And I'm going to ask why people are dragging an obvious goat to the end. That was more my point. Let's see.
Yeah, we've had enough seasons in a row where people identified enough goats, let them herd them to the end without any interference whatsoever.
Kara says he cried. I feel bad about that, but at the same time, I've made people quit before. So, sorry.
Didn't touchy subjects make somebody quit before?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, wasn't that when Clay
Morocco.
quit?
Yeah, it made Clay quit because he was having a bad day and they said, like, I don't want to ever speak to him again in one of the questions.
Yeah, the person who gets all the bad answers in touchy subjects, if they're not ready for it, it can be tough.
If you step into fire, you're going to get burned at tribal council. Like, it's the final 6 and you're saying you're a goat and people are going to drag you to the end. Why would I let that slide and not attack that? Why are you telling people you're going to lose at one of the last tribal councils when you should probably be highlighting your game? Of course I'm going to attack that, especially when there's other people who are obviously going home that would stand a great chance to win. And that's kind of how I feel about it. It's nothing personal against Jack. I love Jack. That's just that's how I do my job at tribal. That's not to say it's the right thing to do, but that's what we do. So that's the kind of host I am. I'm aggressive when it comes to tribal councils. And, that's going back years and years. So nothing personal, Jack. I like you, but I think that's why you're 14th on the fan favorite poll. In 13th place, we have a tie with 41.25% of the vote, Christian and Davey. I think this is pretty good placement for these two. It's about where they went in the season, a little higher, actually. And I think, they both were very likable and didn't have a huge impact on the game. I think that's about where this placement is. I would say the same thing about Jack's game, although Jack had a bigger impact. But obviously, Christian was someone who I thought was hilarious. He just wasn't around enough to really sink his teeth into the game. I actually wonder if now he would be able to, now that he knows what it takes to compete. And I think Davey's the same way. Davey he played a more laid back game, let's say, instead of being a little bit more aggressive in the beginning when he probably needed to be, especially with people like Kara and Jessica controlling that tribe.
I think Christian cemented him a spot, at least here, singularly from that challenge where you had to find the blue rock. And he didn't post a single one for the entire challenge. That was hilarious.
And then he told everybody he just submitted it. That was fun.
One quick thing about, since we're on Christian and we just talked about Jack, there was that awesome pre-merge tribal council with Peroto, who we loved, by the way, like definitely the lurker's favorite.
Tribe.
Yeah. There was that tribal council where they were deciding between Jack and Christian, who was more inactive, but was an alliance member of theirs. And Jack, who was much more active and really likable, but not necessarily from their original tribe. I want to give credit to Jack for being able to convince them to keep him over Christian, someone who was an easy vote. I think it's a credit also to the Peroto people to be able to take that risk. I know it's going to end up costing them probably in the merge since Jack flips. But I do think it was a nice move to move forward with Jack from a lurking perspective. Like I thought that was really sweet that they all came together and made like a genuine friendship and saved this guy who probably deserved to be there more than Christian because Christian wasn't around as much. So just a genuine moment from the Peroto that I thought I would mention.
And I also think that Christian did not have been loyal before. He had been talking in confessionals about how dangerous Carol.
Yeah. I think, too, that might be why Jack is a little lower on the fan favorite, because he did kind of fuck over some of the Perotos at different points of the season. So, that coupled with him calling himself a goat is not going to get you fan favorite votes. That doesn't mean we like hate Jack. I think the opposite. I think we all love Jack,
I think in general, the lower you are on this list, in most cases, the better you are as a person, probably.
That's probably true. Yeah, I think Davey, we talked about Davey a lot in the pre-jury, but Davey is someone who everyone was super disappointed that he was the one to leave early because he was a favorite. And honestly, though, like a majority of the pre-jury were great. And pretty much the whole cast was phenomenal from top to bottoms. This list is super hard to rank. And even the people who are low because of the scandal probably would be very high if it weren't for that. So, it's just some of this stuff is arbitrary. Like I'm looking at the numbers and there's a lot of people in the middle. And I think that's a testament to how great this cast was. So let's go ahead and move on to 12th place. We have our winner, Aaron, with 49.58% of the vote. And you're going to see a lot of people in this like 50% range. So I think the votes were really close. Aaron, he's going to be pissed he's so low on this, but sorry. He was so he had a couple of things working against him in terms of fan favorite. Number one being he was wrong a lot of the season strategically. Number two, that he was on the wrong alliance side. And number three, that he was a number two to Dean and Carl. So those aren't great points when you're doing a ranking for fan favorite. It is a great point when you're looking to win the game of Stranded, which I think he did very well. It's just not something that we were like necessarily rooting for. Not that we were rooting against him, but middle of the fan favorites about where that'll get you,
Yeah, I 100% think the biggest thing working against Aaron was that his closest alliance member was Dean. And if people are going to be thinking about what was happening, especially from about the swap until he went out at, 9th place, you were always going to talk about Dean before you mentioned anything about Aaron. And that's just a tough place for the lurkers to really form an attachment to you, especially when you're in the majority at the swap and at the merge. And so like no one's really rooting for you to pull off a big upset,
Yeah, I see a lot of comments like this is bullshit. How is Dan above Aaron? I would say this. It's very much your impact on the season and how big of a character you were directly affects your fan favorite placing. If people care about you, you're going to be higher than someone who people don't care for because someone's ranking you high whereas maybe these guys in the middle were just like middle of the road for everyone in the ranking.
And I also think, too, that with Aaron, it's, I think a lot of us saw him, once Carl and Dean went out, but we thought Aaron was going to keep sliding by. A lot of us were like, oh, man, is Aaron going to win this? Is this how the season's going to end? Not necessarily disappointed, but thinking like, okay, this is now the logical progression that's going to happen. And people weren't excited about it, which I think also hurt him in the fan favorite ranking.
Yeah, people don't like to give the winner people don't want to give the winner $125. You want to spread the wealth.
And as well, people like underdogs. So if someone was the obvious winner halfway through the merge, I think people naturally are going to root against that. And to preface, the lurking is savage, like beyond savage. I mean, half the shit that was said at the reunion is a quarter of the shit talking that was going on in the lurking server. And you'll get to experience that next season when we get all new people and you get to trash on them. But, that's stranded. We cast big personalities and they like to express themselves. So that's what we like to see.
Yeah, Aaron's not even a small personality. He was just paired in this cast where it's just full of big personalities, and paired with some of the bigger people who are in a similar character archetype to him.
No, and I also want to say, from my perspective, others may disagree. I think Aaron's a good winner, and I think he played the best game and deserved to win.
The best winners of Stranded are usually not the most exciting people.
Yeah, I mean, look, we love an underdog. That doesn't mean that they played the best game.
Both placing up on this fan favorite list would be on the cover of any season, even if they went out pre-merge or anything like that, or didn't win. So yeah. Aaron's pretty entertaining. He's just 12th because it's this cast.
Yeah. And like I said, all these votes are very close. Let's go ahead and move on to 11th place. We have Chelsea with 40.42% of the vote. 50.42, excuse me. Chelsea, again, I think is someone super likable. I think she's someone that we began to root for right around the time that she was cut. And, I think we just like the earnestness. She was saying that she didn't think she was a big character, so she won't be invited back. I disagree. I think, she gave her all into playing. She was feisty. She might not have been the flashiest player, but I like how much she cared about the game. And I would say that for a lot of the people here. And that made her a very interesting character. I think, and there's also the bonus of knowing some people that have regrets about how they played come back and play a much better game or a much more entertaining the second time. So we understand that as well. We've been doing this for a long time. We know how this goes.
We very much have the direct example of Cara and Elizabeth right here.
Yeah, Cara and Elizabeth, both very early boots in their isolated season, came into this and I think killed it. But we'll talk about them when they come up on this list. Chelsea. I think it's a good spot for Chelsea. She's 11th here. She went out 14th, so that's a pretty good bump for her. Not like a crucial character this season, but certainly a likable person that we thought was going to make it much further than she did.
I also think that, a lot of people pre-merge, it's really hard to get a feel for them and in the fan. Those people, like, they happens in the merge that if you weren't like a standout character in the pre-merge, you're not going to be too much higher than, 10th place. I think Chelsea is definitely a person that was intentionally playing under the radar, intentionally not being a big personality. And, that means that when you go out 14th, there's no way you're going to stand up to the personality and the gameplay that we see in the final week of the game, because that's what people remember most as they're submitting their final vote.
Oh, and especially this season. I mean, you guys were all awesome. A lot of people were saying like this was a tough ranking, and it's going to be really tough when we do the cover where we pick normally we pick the 6 people that stood out the most and define the season. This time it's going to have to be 7 because there were too many to choose. And even then, we still had a debate about it. Let's go ahead and move on to 10th place was Nick with 54.58% of the vote. Like I said, these were all pretty close votes in this middle pack. Nick was someone who I thought did really well strategically. We just didn't see a whole lot from him personality-wise to make me... I feel like if he had the personality of, say, a Carl or even a Dean, I think we would have rooted for him a lot more. I think he really game-botted it, if I had to say. Now, he played a great game. He made a lot of correct moves, and I think at one point we knew it was between him and Aaron who would win. So, kudos to him. I think, hopefully if he gets another shot, he would give a little bit more personality to us. That would bump him way higher on this list.
Yeah, I mean, I'm someone who likes strategy, finds it interesting, finds game-botable characters probably more interesting than a lot of other people.
Yeah, you're alone on that.
Yeah, I know. But I also think that Nick gets the boost here from the move he decided to make to flip on Carl as early as he did. I think a lot of us were scared he was just going to take the safe navigation to the end, and he decided to put himself out there by owning that vote and switching that over with Tommy.
He also did a lot of fun things with like stranded coin early in the season, where he would like kind of scam people out of coins or take coins from people and say, "Oh yeah, I'm giving them back to you," and like not do it.
Yeah, basically every time Nick says, "Oh, I'm going to spend this much coins on it," he only spent like half it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hannah, you were kind of like Nick's number one fan.
Was I?
Well,
No, I was not.
oh, never mind. Get fucked, Nick.
Yeah, fuck off.
You had no fans. No.
I like Nick. He's a nice guy. I was not his number one fan at all.
Oh, sorry, Nick. You didn't have any fans. No.
He's a nice guy. I would
He
not.
had a lot of.
I ranked him a little lower than this. I'm sorry.
He had a lot of. Let's say he had a lot of friends going at this season, and he also had a really good application. So we expected more personality from him. I'm glad he played the game to the fullest, though. I'll say that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if I were to recommend everyone to do something before their season to go hunt fan favorite, it's to be about 50% more of an asshole.
Yeah. Do those things that are off the wall that you were hesitant to do. Let's put it that way. Let's go ahead and move on to 9th place. We have everyone's favorite Dan with 55% of the vote. Just a great guy. I think everyone loves him. No, Dan was pretty awful all season. Complained left and right, was a pretty big dick in councils, and I loved every second of it. Sorry, not sorry. I don't know. I think it's. Let me finish my Dan rant, then you can hate on him. But I think Dan. Every season we look for someone who's a douchebag. Like it's hard to find a good douche, and Dan was really unapologetic about it. Like he was not afraid to tell people to go fuck themselves or whatever he was doing in public. He was pretty subtle about it. Actually, he was just a big douche. And I loved it. We love people who are themselves 100%, not afraid to tell people things. And he made it pretty far doing that, like way farther than he should have. At some point, I thought he was going to be a Final 3 GOAT, which would have been incredible. He is a character for sure. And that's why he's 9th on this list above some of the other people who made it further.
So,
like now you can shit on him.
During the season, I think I ranked him like last in every single ranking because I just liked everybody. I liked everybody's personality. But at the end of it, I think I ranked him like 4th because he was good to have around. Good / bad to have around. Good television. On Ponderosa, he wasn't a bitter bitch. He wasn't a rude ass to everybody, even though they were directly insulting him to his face and saying, like, Dan's the biggest asshole fucker in this place. And he didn't fight them. He just said, yeah.
I feel like everyone has a friend like Dan that's just a dick, but he's funny and you just put up with him because, he's in your friend group or whatever. And, he doesn't really mean that badly, but he is just a dick. And I think that's Dan. That's probably me in most cases too. Yeah. But, I think that's Dan. I think, he's probably harmless outside of Stranded, and he's a pretty good sport about all the hate he got. So, but he did complain, so he deserved a lot.
Big thing was him complaining during the challenges, but he just wanted to win. He just wanted to get further, and he felt like if he complained, maybe something good would happen, and it didn't because we didn't put up with that shit. But, one of my favorite characters this season.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely a trend of people liking the players who are willing to throw back at the hosts. That's a pretty standard thing. If you're willing to call Probst out, if you're willing to talk down to the hosts or say, like, fuck you, like, we're probably actually going to love it. So...
I mean, I would still not
wink,
recommend
wink,
doing
nudge.
that. Don't do that too much, please.
I've been around it to where I can handle it. I love it. I think it adds character to a season. If you're gonna fuss at me, that's cool. I'll make sure to poke that bear because I think it adds to the season. And we're not vain about it. Look, we don't cast people because they love us and they're gonna give us a ton of compliments. Like we don't need that praise. We cast people because they're gonna put on a good show for us, regardless of our personal feelings towards them. Just like I would say the opposite is true, where someone like a Jack who was not interesting in the game doesn't mean that we hate him outside of it. So let's go ahead and move on.
Yeah, my big issue, I rated Dan. Dan would have been rated top 5 for me if he just didn't quit at the end. He basically quit that final round.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yeah, I think he could have been a good final 3 goat. I think a lot of people were going to drag him to the end, so that is disappointing. Let's go ahead and move on to 8th place. We have Jessica with 55.83% of the vote. I think it shows how big of a character Jessica was this season to be 8th on fan favorite when she was like, what, 16th place, something like that?
Yeah, 16th.
So she came out of the gate swinging, was super aggressive, which we love. And she got a boost because we weren't expecting that from her, just based off her interview and application. She killed the game. Like, she made alliances, backstabbed those alliances, kind of called the shots on original Nairi, and was doing super well. And then she got swap bucked. So, what you gonna do?
I love Jessica.
Yeah, I'm happy with this placement for her. I definitely think, she had a really interesting first week, heading up that Black Widows alliance that was very poorly named in public group chats. But on top of that, just somebody who from minute one was playing hard, wasn't afraid to make moves, play big, went big at that tribal council where Elizabeth went ahead and bought herself onto another tribe and then was one of the first people to really fuck up Whispers, which I think was like one of the defining moments of her game and one of the moments that really cemented her as a lurker favorite.
Yeah, they're screaming, play the idol. John, even after the season, was like, that was his first question. Was like, what the fuck happened with the idol? Because I gave you my pre-merge idol and you didn't play it and you went home. I think that's awesome. I think that adds kind of to her. I think that's why she did so well, because she went home with an idol. It's always entertaining. No, I think rookie mistake. I think we said that in pre-merge podcast. I think Jessica is just someone who needs a little more growth in the game, but I don't have many notes for her because I thought she did really well when she was playing.
Yeah, Jessica came out strong, swinging. She playing the game from the get-go. It was really nice to see. And then she, a couple of mistakes, a couple rookie errors that happened, and she ends up going out earlier than I think most people would have wanted her to.
Yeah, Jessica being so fresh made her so easy to root for this entire season.
Yeah, a majority of the pre-jury, you guys are going to get another crack at this. Like, we like having people back who are entertaining, and as long as you guys stick around and are engaged, chances are you'll get another shot at this. Especially some of these people who are like swap fucked or missy fucked, those people get another shot. Let's go ahead and move on to, unless there's anything else about Jessica. 7th place, we have Dean with 56.67% of the vote. Before we get into Dean, I'm going to go over these fan favorite rankings because we did them like 5 times throughout the season. So, different intervals, let's say once a week. He started out with 94% of the vote when the swap happened. He then went down to 59% of the vote. Then he went back up to 70% of the vote. And then he tanked to 32% of the vote. Then he went back up to 57% of the vote. So
That's why we called him a roller coaster. Yeah.
It doesn't begin to describe what it was. We have to talk about Pound the Alarm.
Pound me like an alarm clock.
Alarm gate.
I think we'll save some of that embarrassment because those guys have been over that ad nauseum for the past few days. But that is totally... If the story of the season is Alison getting fucked over, Dean is the one who is fucking her over 100%. So a quintessential character this season, from early favorite to maybe villain of the season. We're not sure, but certainly the biggest dip in popularity. There were so many different sides to Dean. There was a time where he was the underdog that we were rooting for. There was a time that he was so wrong with Aaron in the Douche Bro Alliance. And then there was the time where he was, maybe affecting people outside of the game with his fuckery. So, and then, he started to get back in everyone's good graces towards his end. It's just, I think he ended up at 56%, which is probably a good average of his overall scores of, 95% down to 32%. So I think that's Dean in a nutshell. He ended up 56%. I think that's about accurate.
It's mouth Watergate.
I think one of the defining characters this season, for sure. Certainly someone we'd love to talk about one way or the other, positive or negative.
Dean was 100% the most dedicated player this season. Like, if we had an award for that, I would give it to Dean.
Does anyone want to talk about Dean? We haven't brought in some people in a while. I would love to hear from Alison during this segment, but we'll see if she's had enough of that.
Well, while we're waiting for them, I'll just say one of the key ways to get lurkers to love you is to have an active confessional, because people like to read and they like to be entertained. And Dean definitely brought that the entire season. You were never looking for more information from Dean. You always knew exactly what he was thinking, even if it would change from post to post every 5 minutes when he'd be writing a new confessional. But
Dean might have showed us that there is a limit.
Like when we were loving him, those constant updates were incredible.
If Nofo was here, I'll speak for him. He would just say, ew. We'll bring in Dean now. Allison, we're going to wait until she comes up on the ranking. Let's go ahead. I'm going to unmute you, Dean, and you'll get to defend yourself a little bit.
I can talk, yeah. Now, What do I defend myself from, though? I'm curious.
So, there was this debate in the lurker server while it was happening. Do you think you crossed a line with Allison?
No, because I was just doing what I had to do, and honestly, if you're going to be this sensitive, then
Okay, this is off to a terrible start. but continue.
No, I want to know.
Well,
Okay.
so here's my rebuttal. You had to do it. You did not have to do it because you voted her out the next vote. And then you planned to continue trying to vote her out for the subsequent votes and kept it going. Where you could have used it to your advantage and gotten a lot further in the game by using her with the information she was giving you and the trust you had formed and actually making a smart game move with it.
I think that is the biggest offense from a lot of the lurking, is that it was also kind of a bad move because you had an inroads on the other side that you were kind of shitting away by getting rid of Allison, which didn't make sense for us because, this was someone who totally bought what you were selling hook, line, and sinker to her own detriment. And it's someone you could have really used on the other side. Say, if an idol was played, she could have diverted votes against you or tipped you off to one.
I don't think that would have been possible, though, because from my perspective, I thought that foursome that I thought, Cara, Angelina, Alison, John, I thought they were super solid. There would be no way. And I thought Alison was sort of playing me like John, where it was sort of just a vague back and forth. And I didn't know that they were 100% telling the truth for most of the time anyway.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of overestimation of Allison's gameplay. No offense to Allison, but I think, people saw her as like this huge mastermind that was lying to everyone and manipulating everyone. And I think she was more of a genuine player that was kind of she was almost independent of Peroto. But I could see where you would view her as like solidly in that group and maybe even leading that group.
Like, you know what? If I could even see a little crack with Allison, where if Allison just gave me a little, I don't trust John, or I'm not really feeling Angelina or something with Cara, then I would have immediately taken that and I probably would have been much more able to work with Allison and I probably wouldn't have done what I did. But I just didn't get any of that, no matter how much I tried.
Who's saying?
You want something to say?
I have something to say. What the fuck was up with Allison messaging Aaron with a simple hey, and you and Aaron fucking make fun of her like a couple of schoolyard bullies saying, oh my god, she's so obsessed with us. Like, what the fuck is up with that, dude?
What was the context of that statement?
That was Allison just saying hey. That's it.
No.
And you were making fun of her. What the fuck
because
is that?
There was one time where it was probably because it was just over and over again. That was one time. I don't know if this is the specific time that you were talking about.
There was a time where she messaged Aaron, hey, and you and Aaron had about a 30-minute rant about her. She had not messaged anything else. This was after the vote.
This was after you voted against her at the tribal council and she knew about it, right? So she was still kind of believing what you were telling her, that Tommy was the reason, right, that you flipped and that, you were really still with her, and she kind of bought into that. So at that point we were like kind of disappointed in her for not buying that line. But at the same time, like, you and Aaron were almost rubbing salt in the wound because you had just gotten one over on her and you were lying to her, and like I think that rubbed people the wrong way. Let me just preface this because I don't want this to come across like we're attacking you, Dean. I think, there was a point.
I'm drunk.
There was a point where even in lurking where I was like, okay, we're taking this too far. Like, he's just playing a game, and if we were rooting for him, we might even think it was funny. Now people were like, no, that's not true. So I don't know. I was just bringing that up as a possibility of like, hey, let's look at the other side of this too. Yeah, Elizabeth said we're a bunch of Karens. I think, certainly during that time it was easy to pile on hate of you and Aaron, right? Because you guys were fucking over Allison, who people were rooting for. You guys were in control a lot of the game. Not nearly after that. I think you guys lost control during that stage.
After that was pretty much it.
But certainly at that point, right, it was easy to root against you guys. So
yeah, and that's fair. Like, I can come from a fan standpoint. I can understand that if I'm doing all of this to someone that you like, then you wouldn't, feel the best about me. And that's totally cool. I don't give a fuck.
That's where we saw the 32% in the fan favorite. Now, the next week, you go back up to 57%. So, look.
Damn, these mood swings. Fuck's sake.
Lurkers are a
we
fickle
definitely
bunch.
have mood swings, yes.
But I do think, it is worth saying, because a lot of people were watching and a lot of people were angry, that at some points it got a little too personal with Alison from her perspective, because I think she took it seriously, this relationship that you guys were forming. So that was hard to watch, let's put it that way. Do I think you're this evil guy that was trying to make her cry all the time? No, I think, you were playing a game and nothing's off limits in the game. Certainly not that. So that's what I would say. You're getting weeks of pent up frustration that we have not been able to tell to you guys about that situation. But I think even the lurkers have moved past that because you're number 7 on this list, right?
Yeah.
Fair?
But even then, if you say that this is all pent up rage, I'm going to be honest. I thought it would be much worse. This is pretty tame compared to some stuff that I could have been through.
You haven't seen the lurking server.
Oh, no. Yeah. No.
I also want to mention, Alison's reaction to knowing everything. And I know she doesn't want to talk much about this, but that really helped me not be as mad anymore either. I mean, she figured it out. She went against you guys. You guys rebonded back in jury, which I liked seeing.
Yeah,
and you
pretty
just both
cool
were taking
now.
a mature approach to everything, and I respected that from both of you.
Yeah, because again, at the end of the day, I might have some fun in the game, but once I was in jury, to me, that was it. I would be completely honest, and I wouldn't do any of that shit anymore because I have no obligation to do so.
And I have to say, I loved you in jury. I think that helped your ranking too.
How? I was boring in jury.
You were just fun on the jury. So, and I would say this, lurking, when you experience it, you'll get it. It's over the top. We're just having fun. So, and that's why we don't show you guys the lurking server, because a lot of it is said with the...
Gotta protect your status with us.
Well,
I'm just playing.
A lot of it is said knowing that you're not going to see it, right? So you're going to be harsher behind someone's back, of course, because we're reality TV fans. Let's be real.
Of course.
So let's move on from Dean, although we could talk, and we probably will have another podcast with you where we could talk about everything ad nauseum. But
fun.
Bye. Thank you, Dean.
Ciao.
Okay, let's talk about 6th place. We have Tommy with 57.5% of the vote. I think well-deserved in this position. Tommy was not the ultimate character this season, but he was someone we were all rooting for, and he was a big enough character to where I know a lot of people were rooting for him to win at the Final Four. I think Tommy was just someone who he didn't have the best takes overall in the season, best reads on situations, but he was so earnest about it. He was himself throughout and a really nice guy. And I think that resonated with people. He was the oldest person on the cast. We stood out for that. But even just his personality early on, a lot of his dealings with Missy was endearing to people where, she was lying about being a woman and we knew that, but he just believed it hook, line, and sinker. She was talking about her period and he was like, I'm giving her space. I know it's hard for her. Are you feeling okay? He's just a really, really sweet guy. And I think people enjoyed that about Tommy.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tim said earlier that the further up you go on the fan favorite probably means the worse of a person you are. And I don't think that's true necessarily for a bunch of the people we still have left to talk about, and especially not Tommy. Tommy is just genuinely good.
He was just, helping the losers feel better about themselves. Don't listen to it. No, I think, the more impact you have on a season, the higher up you are, regardless of loving or hating the person. And I think it's to Tommy's credit. He had a big impact on this season.
I mean, I think another good thing to point out is that people do love a growth arc across a season. And after Tommy took 4 L's in a row right off the bat, end of the swap, early merge, where Missy was just playing him at every turn, watching him outlast Missy and then be able to work his way from the bottom of an alliance all the way to Final Four. And, having a pretty good read on what was going on in the merge, maybe not the best reads all the time, but a pretty decent read. I think that was endearing and fun to watch, and definitely fun to watch him find his footing in the game and start to get control and realizing he had control.
Should we talk to anyone? Let's see. Can you please invite Tommy?
Let's bring Tommy in.
Let's bring Tommy in. I think we're certainly going to give Missy and Angelina their time to defend themselves. I would even like to give them a podcast, either together or separately, and maybe even with Reem. I think that they deserve their chance to talk. I will not be easy on them during that. I'll bring up all the points you guys have, but I do think they deserve their chance to speak. Now, during this podcast, I'd like to not do that, right? Like, we talked about that earlier in the podcast. Let's talk about the people that are left as they should be. So let's bring in Tommy right now, if he wants to talk.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, Tom, the redhead ginger's here.
All right. So, Tommy, let's talk about, from your perspective, the whole Missy thing, because you were one of the people that were fucked over too.
Yeah, the problem was I got in with Missy really early, and at the beginning you kind of pot commit to who is willing to work with you, and I just didn't see the writing on the wall that Liz and Dean and everyone just warned me, like, this person's a crackhead. You need to cut bait. So that's why we put Missy on the 6 of the 4, but she had so much more power than that you couldn't keep her out of making decisions or fucking us all over.
That being said, you were pretty close to winning. Do you think that actually worked to your benefit in the long run?
Yeah, I think it made me I would like everything you guys said was absolutely correct. I'm a game bot. I bleed truth. I just spread information around that's mostly true. I took the foot off the gas at the end, honestly. I thought I was final 3 with everybody, and I stopped charting everything. I was keeping track of the votes up until the merge, and then I stopped. And then what was the last thing on the challenge? It was all merge questions, or it was all jury questions, and I choked. I just blew it.
To be fair, everyone was terrible at that.
I had it though. But if I had my charts and everything, I would have nailed that. So I blew that part. But my game is all relationships. I'm not a John. I'm not a Dean. I'm not flashy. I just want to get in with you and loyalty. And you can see that. I mean, look at the goddamn chat. I had a different group of, apparently I work much better with girls or fake girls than guys, but I had a different group of girls working with me all the way through, and it was working. I was bouncing around, and I was a schlub, and it was easy to see how poorly I was doing and feel bad for me. I really pitched that to John to try to work over to the potato team, and it was working. I had Alison, I had Kara on paper, I had Nick work with me, but in the end, I took my foot off the gas. Jack won the final challenge, and Aaron made a game-winning move because I think I would have beat him, and he knocked me out.
You were going to go to the end with Aaron if you got the chance, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't have voted him out. If I would have won, I would have voted out Kara.
I think actually that's not terrible for you.
I thought Aaron had played my exact game, but a little bit differently and worse because, as you guys would say, he was in with the douche bros, and I had more of an He ended up having the best underdog story, but had I been there, I would have had a better one.
And I would agree with that. I think you win hands down if you're in the final 3.
That was my plan. I did the math, and I thought I had at least 3 or 4 votes wrapped up, and then that would be enough to at least tie or win. And Jack crushed that. Well, crushed. He eventually won that last challenge.
It was 30 minutes on the last lock. Let's not.
You said it was going to take a long time. I didn't know what that meant, so I was on edge the whole time. But he won that last challenge, and then instantly told me he was going to take me, and I fucked up. Aaron went to work on him, and I kind of got complacent, thinking I was going to go no matter what, and I should have spent more time talking to Jack.
Yeah, I think
it's cool. It's cool. It was an absolute blast. I choked it at the end, but I still. So you said I listened to your guys' podcast before, and it said act like yourself. Don't try to be something you're not. And how did it go when I tried to trick the tribe on the Vince Christmas? I fucking failed terribly. Chelsea was about to vote check, and I panicked and just admitted everything, and then hid it under making sure Vince didn't have an idol. But really,
I love that though.
I just wanted those coins. Yeah, but I'm not good at deception, so that's why I didn't. I was like, okay, that was your one try and you failed, so let's be done with that for the rest of the game. And then you could see I was honest pretty much the rest of the way, other than Nick and I turning on everybody.
Yeah, no, I agree. I actually think that's why you're so high on this list. Shout out to everyone's terrible challenge performance this season. You guys were really the worst. Setting records for numbers. Shout out to Takara's. Is it 12? Is this person 12?
That was a good strategy.
Shout out to Hot Tamale, which didn't get to happen because y'all couldn't answer within 10 seconds. just overall, really, that final immunity taking, 90 minutes. Most of the time it takes like 45. Really set the bar low on challenges this season. So kudos to you all.
One question for you on the Wikipedia page. I know you guys do different sites, so it's a different Wikipedia page, but that lettering of the African language was insane. Is it that hard normally to like?
Yes.
Okay, then we're just bad.
Yeah, you guys are not great.
It was tough, man. Those letters don't make sense. G's and L's and I's going after each other. Okay.
Yeah, we've had Asian countries that are like way worse, I think.
But yeah, the victory season was Norse, so there were accents everywhere too.
Umlauts and shit.
Yeah, I think, you guys are just not challenge pros.
Yeah, I'm old.
But look, I think, and strategically, you guys were suspect too. I think that's what made the season so good, though, is everyone was on a level playing field. So it was like it's like watching Little League soccer. Everyone's just kind of fucking running around, tripping over each other. But it was amazing. I loved it.
The orange team versus the blue team versus the green team. Little League soccer. Yep. Well, thanks so much.
Yeah. Okay. I think we're gonna move on to. Julie's yelling at me for how long this is going on. Let's move on to fifth place. We have Carl with 65.83% of the vote. I loved Carl. Carl was someone who wasn't my top pick, but I really ate my words on that one. Loveita was the reason he got cast. She was a huge Carl fan from application. And she nailed it, man. She said, look, I don't do the nerd thing. I rely on my translator, Loveita and Tim, to translate nerd for me. They were like, hey, if he's leading an Overwatch team, he's probably pretty aggressive and gets down and dirty with those players. So
I thought he would be able to survey the field, have good reads, and make interesting strategic moves.
And he did. He was a huge gamer this season. And I think after he left, that hurt the Douche Bro Alliance tremendously. I think that was their downfall, because he was certainly the leader and brains behind that operation. No offense to the rest of those guys. I think Carl was a great player. I always expected him to kind of go around where he did, because it's hard to be that aggressive and last super long. So that's about where I expected him to go, but I really appreciated it. I thought he did a phenomenal job this season.
Yeah, do we bring Carl in now?
Yeah, Carl, do you feel like talking?
Yeah, I also think he got even more fun in jury, too. He was just a nice, casual guy on jury.
Hey, Carl, how's it going?
Good. I didn't expect to be top 5. I thought Dean would be ahead of me, but he was a dick in that scenario. So I'm happy to beat all my alliance in that, even though I got out first.
To be fair, there's a tie in the top 5, so you really like 6.
No, whatever. We know what number I am.
just to humble you a little bit, Carl. No,
don't get big on your britches.
No, I think deserving of this high placement, especially with these other high caliber players. I thought this season wasn't filled with great strategists, but I would put you as a great strategist this season or not.
Thanks. I think, as you know, my whole alliance was super paranoid the whole time, and I assumed that there would be like other really good strategists. That's why I was like so hellbent, like, damn, this Alison girl's really fucking good at this game. So I was the one who wanted to get her and John out, especially once we had done the swap. I was like, no, I'm gonna ride or die with, as you call, the Douche Bro Alliance. Mm-hmm. That's probably better than our actual name, winner booze. Probably better. So I could never. It was WOB. That's how you guys. Yeah, we kind of went with it.
I kept thinking like wet ass pussy or something. Like WAP.
It's supposed to be, I guess, like win or lose, but I kind of just like Aaron was so happy with it. I was like, let's go, whatever. We're fine. I thought we were all good, but Nick, he got me. I was like blind to him. I did not expect him to be gaming as hard as he was, but. Good on him. I had, in my opinion, the best blind side in the season, and that makes me happy.
I think that's probably true. I think that was the turning point of the season. Kudos to Nick on that one. And you were so sure. That was like, normally you were pretty paranoid about it, but you were like so sure at that tribal council you were going to, enact your plan, and you got fucked, Carl. Sorry.
Literally right before we went to tribal, I am Dean. I was like, this seems too easy. If there was ever a time that I would be blindsided, it's probably tonight. And then we close off the IMs, and then there we go.
I'm laughing because Tim said wet old butthole. This is the acronym of WOB.
Better name. I love it.
Yeah, I think a good indication or a good piece of evidence to show how hard a few of you guys in the Douche Bro Alliance were playing compared to everyone is that for that bounty twist The
We're the only ones who
people to
did it.
go into it were Carl, Dean, Nick, and then Missy.
And Nick immediately says that he has Missy, so we don't even get the benefit of, or obviously he would have gotten it, but he doesn't even get the benefit of Missy going out that tribal. So sad.
Yeah, I think Carl, you're one of the rare cases. I said this earlier, but you're one of the rare cases of someone who can be strategic and interesting, right? Like, I wouldn't say you were the biggest personality this season, but your gameplay was so aggressive that it made you really interesting.
But I go for it.
There are a couple of people that are strategic and are interesting for it. I mean, look, we like all kinds of players, not necessarily, Missies or over the top Dans, I think you're the other end of that coin where you can be super strategic and interesting.
Well, I know what I would do different if I were to play again.
What's that? Or do you not want to disclose that in case you're playing against some people?
I was super aggressive at the start, as you obviously all know. I might slow it down a bit. We'll see what happens. There's some time there, but I talked to Dean earlier. I'll definitely be shitposting more in my confessionals now that I saw what other people are doing. I won't take that shit as serious, but it'll be a lot funnier. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to mute you now, Carl. Thanks for chiming in.
Love you all.
So we can move on to the next person. So we're not here all night. Let's go on to fourth place. We have Elizabeth with 72.08% of the vote. I think deserved. Every so often we get, Jesus, get an alarm going off or something. I think every so often we get a pre-merge person that defines a season 2. And I think it was Elizabeth here. We didn't get to see her necessarily, fight with people or do the other things that we know she's capable of. But certainly she was a dominant force in the early merge and the most robbed this season, probably. I have to go check on what that is. Someone take over for Elizabeth.
Elizabeth's a crazy bitch, and I love her. I'm drunk. Can someone else help me?
Yeah, I think Elizabeth was probably in one of best, if not the best positions going into the swap. I think she set herself up the best in the original Miombo tribe, and then everything that happened with Missy.
Hey, I'm taking over.
Hey, Julie's taking over. Okay.
Poody has to fix the alarm, so I'm taking over. None of you bitches want to talk to me? What the fuck?
Oh.
You said you were taking over. I thought you were
taking
say
over.
something.
We were waiting.
I don't know what to talk about this season. I didn't listen to this. The only thing I heard about was the sexting and that Rachel got fucked over or something. And that's all I heard.
About right now.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. So we're good.
We're talking about Rachel getting fucked over.
Oh, look at me. Look at me
I think,
knowing.
Elizabeth, you also have ability to unmute for this section. So while Poody's doing this, we can bring you in sooner.
Wait, let me see. I got this.
Rachel should have the power already.
I don't know how to do this shit.
She is back.
There she is. She's unmuted now.
I was pulling a Dan and putting my kid to bed.
Well, congratulations on 4th. Are there other things you want to talk about your game that you haven't gotten to talk about? You've kind of been so fixated on the Missy elephant.
I think I freaking said everything I had to say so far. I haven't shut up. But no, I think I played a good game. I wish I got to stay longer. I think I would have played a way better game if Missy hadn't have been there. No, definitely. If that Missy whole situation didn't happen, it was pretty likely I would have went far, and even our whole alliance would have just steamrolled right through the game, teamed up with Carl and Nick, and then figured it out. I think we would have done.
Do you think you probably would have ended up going with Aaron and Dean and Carl and Nick and just destroying the potatoes?
Yeah, and I would have kept Chelsea too, for sure.
Okay,
Chelsea was loyal, and Tommy.
So let me just play devil advocates here, because is it or is it not an advantage that Rachel and who else played? Y'all played
Kara.
Isolated. So is that technically an advantage though?
No, it's so different.
I don't know, because whenever I played, there was this whole freaking thing because I was Poody's wife, and everybody was like, that's not fair that she won fan favorite. It was fixed. Poody had to tell everyone that I was his wife before the game started. And then some dumb shit happened. Well, if y'all know. I
still didn't really even know what I was doing because we were still noobs.
As devil's advocate, technically, is it an advantage or is it not? If you've never played, just the format of the game, you know what I mean? The format of Isolated is very similar to Stranded. But it is very different. Like the games are super different.
I think had it been like somebody, Matt, who came back and played, then yeah, for sure, disadvantage because he made it so far and he did well. But because me and Brittany didn't do so well in Isolated and still really, really new, I think it was fair game. Like,
that's a really good point.
Dean never played an org, and he was so good that I was convinced he did.
Yeah, that's true.
He was brought back because he was so good.
Yeah, we were all convinced Dean was someone else.
Yeah, I think, and Kara's bringing this up too, is I think it just made them hungrier. Like they knew, because they had both gone out so early and Isolated.
What I think was the most fair was that
the only people I remember from Isolated from y'all's season is y'all too. Like I don't remember anybody else from that season.
Well, what I think is most fair though was Missy literally stalked my Isolated season, so she knew everything about me and could peg me, but I didn't get a chance to like stalk her season or know her, or she was like too new, but she kind of knew too much.
So technically
so she knew who I was. It's just such a disadvantage. I was like that as soon as I found that out, I was like, that's just stupid because then she knows I'm already somebody that's well-liked and known. So then she's going to obviously, as soon as she thought I was against her, she's like, get this bitch out. Like, I didn't even have a chance to kind of like bring her back in or anything. I just feel like
Poody told me that she lurked. So she figured out like who you were.
Yeah. Because like she was a mom who smokes weed from Canada and wood burns and all this shit. It's like you could peg me out of a freaking 1,000 million people. Like point me out.
All right. Do we have the beeping fixed? Awesome.
I'm done. Sorry.
Perfect timing to move to our top 3.
Thank you, Loveita. All right.
Poody kicked me out.
All right.
How dare he?
So we're not here for another 2 hours. Let's move on to third place. We have a tie. We'll do the person who got out earlier first. Lauren with 73.33% of the vote. Lauren, we loved. I still think Lauren might be someone from a previous season because she's such a big personality. Certainly a star of the early merge. Jessica says crazy bitch. Yeah, she was not afraid to call people out. That's for sure.
Yeah, she is like your wet dream in casting.
Yeah.
And she almost didn't get cast.
Yeah, her interview was terrible, except for when she like went on a rant, but that was only prompted. I think Lauren is one of those people that's like once in a blue moon casting where, you know, they have such a huge personality that it eclipses everyone else in a newbie season. And it's interesting because she wasn't that high in the fan favorite until about the second one we did, because at first she was boring during the pre-swap phase. And then once the swap happened, she was like fighting with people in public and all kinds of crazy shit.
Yeah, she was fighting with people in public. We knew she would, after she won that lottery, we knew she would probably be one of the main public idol bidders because of how she kind of, was as a person. So just direct, not afraid to say what she wanted, not afraid to speak publicly about it either. And we like to see that kind of just no fucks to give attitude when you're playing a game like this.
Right. The only thing I could say is like, I wish she had... the public idol was amazing because she just so happened to win that lottery and win the public immunity. I was just like our ideal person. So we were all losing our minds when she finally decided to take it, especially because she was supposed to be the merge boot at that rushed council. And then once she got the public idol, she couldn't be.
And because she took 15 minutes to decide, she went back and forth on it 3 times.
Yeah, I guess she could have been the boot because she didn't play the idol. But, I think that public immunity idol is, if used correctly, it can really propel you throughout the game. So we were really excited that she was the one to get it because everyone kind of hated her at that point. Poody, I was shook, says Dean. Yeah, she was crazy. I loved it, though. She was totally a person that, if you went to her with something, she would make you beg to keep her. I think during that swap, she was like... Her and Jessica's messages with one another were hilarious because they were both like, well, are you going to say something to me? No, okay, well, bye, fuck you. That's pretty much how it went. No fucks given from either one of them, really.
Carl said in the chat, the very first thing she said to me after I told her to let's leave the past in the past was, what's in it for me?
I mean, just, how did she make it as far as she did? We'd never know. I think people were just bewildered by her.
And she very easily could have made it further.
Yeah. I think, that's all we can really say about Lauren, although I could go on forever. The game moves don't back it up, so there's not much else to talk about there. Let's go ahead and move on to the other person that she tied with, also in third place, is Kara with 73.33% of the vote. I think Kara, if you're keeping track, this top three is all the Perotos that stuck together from the beginning. And I think that alliance dominated our fan favorites because not only were they the underdogs, but they were also all likable in their own right, even independent of the Peroto alliance. They each had something totally different. And even Kara was beginning to turn on the Peroto people. So it's not just that. It's that, she was very rootable the whole season. She had great takes. Her confessionals were fire. I don't think she had the best gameplay, sorry to say, Kara, but certainly, we knew her going into this. So to see her going from basically first boot and isolated to then turning it around and kind of dominating a lot of the season and coming close to winning. I think if she had played a little bit more aggressively towards the end, she would have definitely deserved the win. She got close to winning. I think she probably didn't deserve it necessarily. Certainly not over Aaron, I don't think. But I do think she played a really good game. This is wow, mean Poody. Sorry.
I think if she had won it, she would have deserved it.
That's true. I think
That'll be so political.
I think that the final three was so close that she didn't stand out enough to warrant that. I think if she had played her idol on Alison, she would have definitely deserved the win. Let's put it that way. I wish Gary was here to talk about his love. Kara, she didn't want to talk, I don't think. Yeah, I just thought she was a fun character, really rootable, super bubbly. Maybe not the best player, but a good player.
And I think something that, I like as a fan, as a lurker, is somebody who is, very aware of their position in the game. And I think for me, Kara was probably the person who was most aware in the late merge, going into the final three of how her game looked, what she needed to do, and where the pieces were in the game. Did she take absolute advantage of that? Maybe not, and maybe that's why she didn't win. But I think that she had that awareness that I like to see from players when I'm ranking.
Yeah, let's put it this way. I think she played it safe because she was guaranteed to get to the final three, and she needed one big move to solidify that win that she didn't. That being said, she lost 4-3, so it's not like it's not like she got shut out or she had no shot. She very well could have won. But I think
she was Lauren voting for Jack away.
Right. So that's what I would say about Kara. She had a few misses, but overall she played pretty solidly. And we're proud of her for getting as far as she did and the turnaround on gameplay. Let's go ahead and move on to our top two. This, of course, is going to reveal who wins. So I'll go ahead and announce who wins, and then we'll talk about the second place finisher. It's between Alison and John, I think appropriately, with 95.42% of the vote. John is the fan favorite of the season. I think very well deserved, even though there was a last minute push for Alison, which would have also been deserved. I think overall John was a favorite throughout the whole season. So I think that's pretty well deserved. Let's go ahead and talk about Alison in second place with 90.83% of the vote. Alison, I think, was just first of all, the storyline this season was so unique in that we never had something quite as personal. The more we go on with Stranded, the more personal we get in the storylines. We have people who are having a relationship, or in this case, a flirtmance, and people who are being betrayed personally with real life stuff. So I guess this is just a natural progression where we would have someone who is being played on a serious level. And I think to witness her being played was hard to watch. To witness her falling for it was hard to watch, because I think a lot of people have been in that situation where they fall for people who are not good for them and are taking advantage of them. And I think watching that was tough for a lot of people. But I also think she overcame that and voted Dean's ass out. So we loved that. And it was really the storyline of the season. I think everyone was watching that with eagle eyes. I think her resilience throughout that, and, even so much as taking it after the game, after being voted out, of being like, you know what, it was just a game. And I think that is also why people took to Alison so much in the season.
Yeah, it was just nice, sociable herself, obviously driven. We talk about how she was not the strategic mastermind necessarily everybody thought she might have been, but she was very driven to play this game and do as well as she could. And she did that through her incredible social abilities. So it was a really impressive job that she won us all over.
Yep, Alison's everything we wanted in a new player. There's no other way of saying it.
Yeah, Alison, I'm going to add you to the podcast so you can say a few words if you would like. You don't have to.
Oh, yes, and then we need Naonka's speech.
Oh, God. Okay. You there, Alison?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, gotcha. All right. So how was your journey throughout the season? Because you had highs and lows, rough points. What did you think overall, though?
It was definitely a roller coaster, but it was so much fun. Like, I went into it, you guys know, because you read my confessionals not knowing fucking anything. I still don't know that I know much, but I had a whole lot of fun, like, getting to know people, and I think that's what got me far, is that I just really genuinely made friends with people. Can you all hear me?
You kind of in and out on the staticness.
I don't know why.
Okay.
Yeah, it's acceptable, but it's not great.
Yeah, I mean, we can hear you, but it sounds like shit. So, but
Great.
no, I think you were the quintessential new player to Stranded. And I think, you had a complete journey of underdog to top dog, being fucked over to getting revenge on that person. And I thought the whole thing was just, some people are saying you were the story of the season. So I know a lot of people were rooting for you to win this. Last week you had topped John with 95%.
So
this
close.
This week you're at 90%. So, I think it's just relative, but
That's okay. John deserves it.
certainly our favorites. Let's put it that way.
Well, I had a blast. Like, this was so much fun.
I'm glad you at least enjoyed yourself. I think you were a great sport, I think, throughout, because you had one of the harder journeys. And Stranded is not easy. I think even
I did it to myself.
Well, I think even Aaron would attest to it not being easy. Certainly, you get more emotionally involved than you would think you would. And I think you handled yourself with grace. So you should be proud of that.
It's because I'm a queen.
Yes.
An iconic legend.
Let's bring in Naonka to praise on you, because he hasn't done it enough.
Wait, what? What am I doing?
Your speech.
Speech time. Speech.
Speech.
Give it to us. Speech.
Okay, I was actually joking about the speech, but I think I said what I had to say on Monday night. I mean, I can repeat it. I don't mind.
Quickly.
Yes, quickly. Alison, I think there's really obvious why a lot of people really liked you. First, you came in as someone who didn't even know the show, and just watching you play and evolve through the game was just very interesting and refreshing. I want to say Loveita probably said something like this, like something along the lines where, like, it was just really fun to watch you, like, play a different way, because you're so yourself. Even though you were supposed to take on a character or whatever, like, you were yourself the whole time. To me, I've been doing this for a very long time, and it's hard for me to, like, get as invested, but you were one of the reasons that I got as invested into the game, because you were just so genuinely fun and interesting to watch. Like, your up and downs, and how you maneuver the whole game. People pegged you as a threat from, like, day one. So obviously, whatever you are bringing to the table, it's working. And I think you're going to be a phenomenal player if you keep doing this, FYI.
I would love to keep doing this. This is so much fun.
What he said, I think what he was saying is accurate. When you play this a lot, you don't get a whole lot of stories as real as yours and someone who's unapologetically themselves. And I think that's refreshing. So kudos to you, and thank you for being yourself 100%.
Thank you guys for letting me talk.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and mute you now so we can praise John, since he is our fan favorite this season. John, I think, I've said it ad nauseum, so I'm sure they don't want to hear from me saying it more, but I will anyway. I just thought you were all around the star of the season. I mean, you can make the argument for Alison, so it's hard. It goes close between you two, but I think strategically you dominated as well, which I think gives you the edge here. To a point where I think you should have gone, like, at the final 14 tribal council through no fault of your own, just by virtue of being singled out as, like, the proto leader. But I think, by Carl, by the way, but you managed to push through that against odds that I don't think anyone gave you odds of making it out of that alive. And you kept pushing way further than that, all the way to the final 7, which even then, you could say if Angelina wasn't removed, maybe things would have been different. So I just think you killed strategically, but also I think the reason why you're at the top of the fan favorite list is because the moves that you were making were so, there's not a great word for it, but we'll go with righteous, right? Like, you had this group of underdogs that you were kind of carrying through. I mean, a lot of those moves were because you played idols on Alison. You had the balls to do that. You had the foresight to change in the middle of tribal council and force people to change their votes during the Carl boot and the Dan boot. And I think, all these times along the way, you really led this group of underdogs that we all love into pretty much a power position. And even, I can name 100 things. Giving your idol to Jessica across tribal lines was a bold move. Giving up the public immunity idol in favor of giving your tribe individual immunity at that merge. So I think, just a lot of ballsy moves, but also really likable moves too, because we were rooting for you guys. So to see you go out of your way for someone like even Jack to stay in the game over an inactive, and just every little thing along the way was something really lovable. So I think this is well deserved.
Yeah, John was somebody I was really excited to watch play this season, because I knew a little bit of his history with online reality games in the past, and how, far back he went in that. And I really just wanted to see how he'd adapt to Stranded and the IM and all of this. And his adaptation was phenomenal. And I loved reading about his updates and his reflections on the game, not just of what was going on in it, but how the format changed his game style and, the different changes he was noticing. And that was just something that I'm personally fascinated by. So,
yeah,
John's great.
We can't say enough good things about John, really. It's really rare to find someone who is both a big character and really rootable, as well as a good player. So, those three things are very rare in gaming. And I didn't expect that from John. I really thought he was just going to be character and not so much good gameplay or likability. But he delivered on those fronts too. So it was a surprise to us. And I think he was just genuine and really likable throughout. I think even the entire Lurker server was rooting for John as well. So it was just fun to watch. So thank you, John, for giving it your all. I thought you did very well, and a very deserving $25 fan favorite award. You'll also get the buff for fan favorite.
Does John?
I think he's working. Are you working, John?
Oh,
Can you say anything?
So dedicated. Yeah, he's still working.
All right, we'll get you in another podcast by yourself. All right, so now that we know the fan favorite award, we'll move on to the player of the season. I'll just do the top 10. How about that? And I'm not going to go through each one
we just went through everyone.
Yeah, so in 10th we have Jack. 9th we have Elizabeth. In 8th we have Tommy. In 7th we have Kara. In 6th we have Carl. In 5th we have Dean. 4th we have Nick. 3rd we have Aaron. And again, it's going to come down to Alison and John. But with 88.67% of the vote, as voted on by all the players this season, this is just the players voting on this, John is in first place for player of the season with 88.67% of the vote. So, John, you're also getting a player of the season buff. I think well deserved too. I think he was both the best player and the best character this season. So very well deserved.
It's really cool when the fan favorite and player of the season line up. If that happened often, I would know, but I think it's a really good testament to John's game.
Yeah. So let's move on to this was going to be controversial because we had who was snubbed? Nobody was snubbed. Let's go ahead and move on to the final award of the night. This is an award we give to the player that we love to hate, because in Stranded we love a good villain. It's named after one of our winners who passed away a little over a year ago now, Lucy, who was played by Jake Valentine. So we've named it the Valentine Award. He was a player who was as sarcastic as he was cutthroat in the game of Stranded. So he would have enjoyed the darker side of things. So, of course, his award is going to go to the villain of the season. So, without further ado, I went back and forth on this. I was going to give it to Lauren because she was such a big character. And I think it's going to be controversial because, I think people might not like this choice, but I'm giving it to Dean. I think Dean was a great villain who gave it his all this season. And although it's controversial because of some of his misdoings, I do think he deserves the Valentine Award this season. So Dean, you'll be getting a Valentine buff. Aaron is also getting a winner buff, as well as $100. So congrats to Aaron. And as well, all the season buffs are on sale. I think we have 3 for $28. You can get all 3, or 1 for 10. And I think, the more you buy, the more discount you get, whatever. But they all go back into the season. So that's the plug for the merch. Finally, I want to say thank you everyone for a fantastic season. No bullshit. One of our best. Certainly one of our best newbie seasons. I think Aaron wants me to talk about his prediction corner. No, we're not. Aaron, we'll have an interview with you for sure as the winner, where we'll let you talk about your win. will have your own podcast. So we'll let you talk about it there. Let's preview what we have to offer in the community. Of course, we're going to be going back to Stranded. I can reveal that there may be another chance for some of you to play in that next season. So look out for that. I'll also say we have a new series starting at the end of the month, Excursion, which you may or may not have seen, but it is a full online game, just like Stranded, where it'll be on its own forum. I think it lasts 2 weeks, so it's a little bit shorter, but just as well produced, maybe even better, because Tim and Nate have been working on it for a long time.
Yeah, Tim and Nate.
Tim and Danny, sorry.
Tim and Nate,
Tim and
his split
That's the same.
personalities.
Yeah, Danny and Nate, excuse me. I've been working on it for a while, so we're very excited about that. It's a brand new game. Get it on the ground floor with that one, for sure. Julie's yelling at me about her award. Now, what else we have? So we're going to be playing lots of games on the server. Jackbox Nightly Movie Watch. Shout out Loveita and some of the people organizing the movies that we stream.
Movies are Saturdays.
Yeah, we're going to be doing Jackbox a lot, so that's a lot of fun. Try not to get anyone to rage quit because we're pretty savage, just as we are in Lurking. And finally, I do think Danny is running a rematch soon. Rematch, of course, being the Discord-only online game. So it's really just a bunch of bullshit. It's not serious, totally a wild ride, kind of fun, but mostly just insane. So you should definitely do rematch because it's nothing. It's no commitment.
Yeah. And this is your chance to vote out Poody at everybody.
And I will say, Rematch has convinced me to cast people, including Devon, who disappointed, and Kara, who dominated Rematch. So I thought, let's give her a shot. So you never know. If you play Rematch and do really well there and are super entertaining, you might get another crack at Stranded too. We have a lot to get to this season. We have a lot planned for you guys. I know Isolated will probably be next after Excursion, and then we're going to get to another season of Stranded. So you guys will have plenty to lurk, plenty to do, and we look forward to y'all joining the community. Thanks for playing. All right, that will close it out. Bye, everybody.
Bye.